Hello everyone. Today we're in the forest picking oyster mushrooms. It's November now and there have already been some rains, so the mushrooms have had enough time to grow. We brought along this saw with a telescopic handle so we can easily reach mushrooms that grow high up. It's quiet and peaceful here in the forest. Today I'm here with Artyom, with my son, and he has already found oyster mushrooms at the base of a tree. Here is a particularly interesting and old poplar tree. There are some oyster mushrooms growing at the bottom here, and he's very carefully cutting them right at the stem. It looks like something has nibbled on them a bit here, probably squirrels or perhaps even mice. But that hasn't made the mushrooms any worse. You can also see up here that mushrooms are growing all over the tree. We've ended up, after all this effort, with a really nice and fresh batch of mushrooms. Somewhere in the forest, a woodpecker is tapping. We already have almost 6 kilograms of mushrooms. Will it fit in the bag or not?
It fits.
For the bigger mushrooms, we have a backpack with a bag inside. It's quiet in the forest. There aren't that many mushrooms right now because a lot of mushroom pickers have already been through. There's a good windfall here. You can hear explosions in the distance. Shells. While we're picking mushrooms, let's go further and see what else is in the forest. Here you can see some fallen trees, and there are also cut oyster mushrooms because the road is nearby and quite a lot of people walk here. And here we found a small tree with a lot of oyster mushrooms growing at the very top. You can see that the tree is just covered with them. We'll take a small spatula on a fishing rod and carefully cut them off, because using a saw would be too rough and they'd get torn. Let's start from the bottom. The mushrooms are exceptionally beautiful. Small, but they're also very tasty. They grow up to 5 meters high, so without a stick we wouldn't be able to reach them. It's the same thing right here nearby. There's a tree with mushrooms right at the very top, but that's about 10 meters up, so we definitely can't reach those. In the distance, explosions can be heard. There's fighting going on. Probably about 5 kilometers away from us. The mushrooms are growing, just like they always have. Very cute little mushrooms are falling down about this size. They're very fragrant and fresh. They'll make a really good soup. In the end, we gathered about 1 kilogram from this tree. That's our weight. Some of them are really big, but it's already nice. They make a very tasty soup. Rich and hearty. Here's another small one you can eat. They're firm and delicious. So we've cleaned off the tree, but they won't grow back from there, because we cut these mushrooms right at the base, under the tree's crown. We'll keep looking carefully to see exactly what's ahead, just up ahead, in that dense thicket. Now, as you can see, we've already collected about probably 10 full kilograms of mushrooms so far. There are all kinds here, big ones, small ones. Now we'll go unload them from the car and then keep searching. For navigation, we use the app I'm Going Home. It's very convenient for navigating in the forest, even if there's no internet, just satellite GPS coordinates. Now we've come to the road, and along the road there's a big poplar tree. It's very tall, and there were already a lot of mushrooms on it that have been cut off, but now we're trying to cut off the very top part of the mycelium. It's growing at a height of about 6 or 7 meters. We've already cut off some, and look how many mushrooms have fallen down. It's important not to miss anything now, so that what we've cut doesn't stay on the ground. I'll start cutting. Here we've come to the former bed of the Dnipro River. There used to be a tributary here. Up above we found this big cluster of oyster mushrooms. They're growing at a height of about 10 meters. Now we'll try to reach them using our sticks. So we're taping the sticks together with the duct tape. Let's try to cut them off. We've added another stick because we still can't reach the top. Now we're trying to reach the very top with 3 sticks. Now let's see what has fallen from the tree. Here's one cluster of mushrooms. Some small pieces. We'll gather them up and put them in a bag. We're collecting all the pieces because they're tasty too. There's some under your knee too, under your right one. Here's another small piece. And here's another cluster of mushrooms. Also pretty good, about 1 kilogram. We're picking up the small pieces too. They break off from the main structure when they fall. The mushroom crumbles when lifted from a high point. And it looks like something else fell somewhere around here. Here in the grass. Here. We need to look carefully and slowly in the grass so that we make sure we don't miss anything. Looking at what we have collected from what was cut, it is clear that this harvest is quite successful. From this single tree alone, we have already gathered almost 2 full kilograms of fruit, which is a significant amount for just one tree, in my opinion. This really shows that the poles we are using are proving their worth, as they help us reach higher branches and collect more fruit efficiently. The use of these poles makes the harvesting process much easier and more productive than it would be without them. We're picking mushrooms that other foragers can't reach. It's kind of like mushroom fishing. Managed to get a bit more. Here I see a super mushroom tree. Of course, they're all growing high up. We'll try to reach them now. You can see the whole tree is covered with oyster mushrooms all the way to the top. Someone has already cut some off at the bottom. Couldn't reach them, but we'll keep trying. This is a super tree. If you cut all the mushrooms from a tree like this, you might not even be able to carry them all home. Look how incredibly densely it's covered with oyster mushrooms, like a thick, solid carpet all around. This tree is special. See that? Someone tried to get them here but didn't cut everything because their stick wasn't long enough. But we'll try to cut off as much as possible. Maybe. The fish is very fragrant. We're going to have a good harvest of oyster mushrooms today. We'll cut as high as possible. As high as we can reach. For now, the explosions have stopped. It's so quiet it almost feels like peace. Shall we begin now? Music, please play at full volume. Let's get started. So we've walked around a bit and there's this kind of windfall here. And right next to our yagan tree, there's another tree here as well. Right here, there's a cluster of mushrooms growing, one about 2 meters above the ground and another at 5 meters. We're going to cut those as well now. The lower one can be cut with a knife without having to climb, and for the upper one, we'll use a stick to cut it. truly gorgeous and beautifully formed cluster of oyster mushrooms has just fallen down from the log. It probably weighs about 1.5 to 2 kilograms as well. It smells really strong. Of course, they won't keep for long in this state, so as soon as we get home, we'll wash them thoroughly and put them in the freezer for storage. Anything we don't plan to cook right away. It's pretty nice looking. I cut the mushrooms almost at the base. There are still some small ones on the sides. We'll trim those now.
We also use a spatula to gently gather these mushrooms into the bag, and this one as well. It crumbled. The mycelium, which is the main body of the fungus, used to weigh about 2 kilograms before it broke apart. Now, we use the spatula for these small ones nearby too, since it's not very high here and they are a bit more delicate. Then we'll move on. To reach the low-growing mushrooms, I'll carefully take a sharp knife and attach it to a stick with some tape.
So that everything can be neatly trimmed.
Let's cut them right now, please, as soon as possible.
Let's start trimming. I caught it, it didn't even have time to break. These mushrooms are very aromatic. There's already about 1 kilogram of mushrooms here. That means pizza is guaranteed today. Let's put the bag down. The bag can't fit all our stuff anymore. Today we have a problem with free space. The bags are getting full. And it's the same with what else we have over there. One mushroom.
Full of rice. Here's one right here, as you can see, located right here in front of it. It's not that big, but in general it's still quite nice. Let's trim it carefully. That really turned out to be quite careless. Now let's trim this one. Trimming with the putty knife turns out much neater. That's it, into the bushes with the basement. Now a bush X will be it. And again, we're hinting at it. And don't turn it off yet. People like it when we film the cherry workshop, even without music. It's good that music is unnecessary for this. We'll film it live, like the process is happening.
Mushroom picking. The little bag was gently crying. One pile of mushrooms that we had, and a second smaller one. Here we got about 3 kilograms from one tree. Here is another tree, and some other mushroom is growing under it. A very interesting one. This is a parasol mushroom. It smells pretty good too, but we don't pick these, so let the squirrels, rabbits, and mice eat them. Let's go further. There's a super tree here to trim because the stick isn't long enough. This is a very interesting activity. We've already filled a whole backpack with mushrooms in a bag, and another bag, and a second bag. Now we have to carry all this to the car, because it's probably about 30 kilograms of mushrooms. They're not very light, because they're watery, full of their own moisture. Of course, a lot are damaged, because we were picking them from above, cutting them from a great height, and they get bruised in the process. We're not going to carry a ladder with us just to pick them carefully. A lot, of course, are still left uncut. I think that in the area around this tree, there will be a lot of mycelium. It will spread throughout the whole forest, and mushrooms in this forest will never run out. Oyster mushrooms will be all around this area, along the entire perimeter, stretching along the outer edges that surround this place, covering every side and boundary. That's why we'll come back here next year. Here we are. We've reached the river. This used to be the channel of the olive pit. Fishermen are sitting peacefully. The water is clear. As you can clearly see, they're not really catching much fish at all. There used to be a lot of mushrooms on the other side. Probably still are now, but for now you can't go over there. There are a lot of mushroom pickers in the forest. Let's go over there. You can see a broken tree here. There are mushrooms growing up top on it. And we're trying to cut them off. There's also another tree nearby here, but it's very high up there. Mushrooms. And here on the crown there are some small oyster mushrooms. They'll grow a bit more. We found a few winter honey mushrooms. Here they are. They have a greenish cut and they're edible. There are a lot of wood mushrooms here that you can't eat. And right in this spot a wild boar appeared, which means there are boars who also love mushrooms and eat them at the roots. There are very few of them there. For some reason these small ones don't want to eat them. That means they're not very edible. And they don't smell like mushrooms. But there are a lot of them. This is a really good mushroom forest. You can see mushroom pickers walking in the distance. And we found it here on the tree, very high up. There are a lot of oyster mushrooms, a whole bunch. Now we'll try to make an extension and get them down. If it works, it'll be a good harvest. One, two, three, and four. You can stop recording for now, or simply pause for a moment before continuing. This is how many mushrooms we managed to knock down. They're all meaty and large. They broke from the height, but they're very tasty and aromatic. We're picking up the small pieces. There's still a small section left to cut up top. Look how many we knocked down. They smell really good. All I know is that they break easily. They're so meaty and aromatic. These mushrooms are very aromatic and don't rot because they have a natural antiseptic. Bugs don't eat them. If they get damaged, these structures have the remarkable ability to heal themselves and continue to keep growing over time. We're going to make pizza with them, so they'll be chopped up and the quality of the product won't suffer. The product won't be affected by this. That's the end of our mushroom picking, and now we'll show you what we've gathered. It's already evening. Here we have one bag, a second bag, and also a bucket, each of them placed right here. A third bag, which is a 10-kilogram bag, another bag at the bottom, this is the sixth, and a full backpack, not counting the dark one. Everyone is already leaving with their things packed. There's also a completely full little backpack, which is quite heavy too. I think we probably picked about 50 kilograms today. A backpack full of mushrooms. This is how many mushrooms we picked on our outing. We managed to fill a backpack completely with mushrooms, and in addition to that, we also filled a bucket and a large container. Each of these was packed with mushrooms we carefully gathered, showing just how many we found during our trip. And all these are bags filled with mushrooms too. Almost none of them are empty. In fact, they're all full. If it weren't for the bags, we wouldn't have been able to carry them home. This is our vibrant mushroom kingdom. You just watched a video about how to pick oyster mushrooms using these simple tools to reach mushrooms growing high up. Leave your feedback and comments, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, stay with us, and goodbye everyone. A song is a musical composition that is typically performed by a singer or a group of musicians, often featuring lyrics and melody.